Good morning, one and all. It is such an honor to be here. I visited in December, and I must say I immediately felt at home. I knew a couple of people, but this sanctuary takes me back to one of our High Holy Day services one year when we could not accommodate our congregation in our home sanctuary, and so your church opened their doors to us, and we prayed here. The only downside to it was before the days when you had air conditioning, and it was our day of fasting, and chomps wafted through at lunchtime. There's a famous saying that you should never go shopping on an empty stomach, as being hungry can lead you in directions you may later regret. We've all been there and know that it's hard to resist the urge to dive in and fill our baskets with items that tempt us. Hopefully, you've all had a good breakfast, since I'd like to talk a little bit about hunger today, and I don't want to tempt you to miss the rest of our service. At the same time, I'm hoping that by the conclusion of this morning, the hunger you may feel will propel you towards the resolve to feed your body, your mind, and your soul with love. Physical hunger. Dylan of Kentucky writes, "It was the best time when my mom had a job. I actually enjoyed life. I used to get to do whatever I wanted. Now I get up in the morning and put on my shoes like everybody else. But when I get to school, I think about losing our home." My mom got laid off from her job at the school district. It really gets to me that they let her go. She'd been there 20 years and is more qualified than a lot of teachers. The only work my mom can get these days is substitute teaching. It's part-time and not enough to pay for the basics. The fact that my 84-year-old grandpa is keeping us from losing our house pretty much gets to me. Before I go to bed at night, I actually pray that we won't lose our home. I have a lot of weight on my shoulders for a 14-year-old. I've had to sacrifice a lot. I'm actually wearing my mom's pants right now because I can't afford to get new clothes. I can't take the college classes I qualified for because we can't afford them. My mom doesn't know it, but I quit baseball so she wouldn't have to spend the money on my uniform. And our food stamps have gone from $300 to $200 a month. It's not a good feeling when I'm sitting in the house eating chips and canned meat that are probably older than me, as my friends are off playing ball and going to steakhouses when they win. I feel like I'm not normal. Some months we run out of food, and I've gone days without sleep because of hunger. The next day I go through class, pinching myself to stay awake. Being hungry affects your appearance and how you act. When I'm hungry, I'm depressed. But I continue to work as hard as I can in school. I've wanted to become a surgeon since the 4th grade, and I keep reminding myself that if I work hard in life, I can get there. Then I can buy my mom a new house. Dylan's story is not taken from a fictional novel. It's a real-life drama of kids in every state of our country. And while we don't live with the old reminder to finish everything on our plates because there are starving children in name the country, most, if not all of us, can say that the last meal we ate before coming here consisted of more than canned meat and stale potato chips. Our Bible implores us to feed the hungry. We are to leave a corner of our field unharvested so that those in need can fill the most basic of human needs, to find nourishment and sustenance. People with food insecurity are our neighbors, often living in painfully challenging circumstances. Life can be hard on a full stomach. This is what drives some of us at varied times throughout the year to prepare meals and to share community with friends who need a meal. The challenge can feel overwhelming. How can we as individuals work to overcome the problem of hunger in our world? Here's the story of one person who took a first step and drew in his community in an effort to feed the hungry. Rosa's Fresh Pizza offered a taste of New York pizza style to the people of Philadelphia. But that's not all they served. Rosa's and their customers teamed up to feed the city a daily taste of hope and kindness. Philadelphia is one of the poorest large cities in our country, and it's the city with the worst deep poverty rate in the U.S., with roughly 185,000, including 60,000 kids, living on incomes below half of the federal poverty line. With that, homelessness is on the rise, and the city doesn't have enough resources to be there for everyone. Heavy, right? Well, this particular story takes a happy turn. At Rosa's, customers could pay it forward by pre-purchasing slices for people in need. Owner Mason Wortman, who left his Wall Street desk job to open the shop, said that Pay It Forward Pizza started with one customer, $1, and one Post-it note. The customer was inspired by an Italian coffee house practice called Caffè Sospresso, suspended coffee, by which customers could pre-purchase cups of coffee for less fortunate customers. Wortman wrote the purchase on a Post-it and slapped it on the wall behind the register to be redeemed by the next homeless patron to enter the store. As word spread, more and more customers participated, and Rosa's wall blossomed with colorful notes signifying acts of kindness and guaranteed slices for everyone who walked in, regardless of their ability to pay. Since that first Pay It Forward slice, Rosa's provided nearly 70,000 pizza slices to needy Philadelphians. And it had a remarkable impact on the community, showing not only acts of kindness can be contagious, but also how a small gesture of support can have a ripple effect of positivity. If one small business acting as a hub of kindness can have this kind of effect, you can imagine the possibilities of entire communities of customers and businesses doing the same thing. In the wisdom that our faith offers, we invoke blessings when we eat a meal. For some, this is routine, and for others, the ritual is still in progress. Mindful eating, after all, elevates the act of sharing a meal to one of holy partnership with God. How better to bless what we have taken into our bodies than by praying with our hands and feet, by giving back. This congregation is an active partner with our local Pathways of Hope, which besides providing temporary shelter, offers 100,000 meals and thousands of pounds of food each year. Through the Food Distribution and Resource Center, households can choose the food that best meets their nutritional health from a variety of options. Last year alone, more than 5,000 people, including almost 4,000 children, faced food insecurity, and received nutritious meals through pathways. You can show your love for our fellow humans and make a difference by dropping off your donations here at the church as part of the food drive, so that our friends have their shelves stocked with the nutrition they need. This congregation also hosts monthly burrito breakfasts. I'm going to come. They're so good. As an important outreach program, setting an example for how the rest of our community should be living with generosity in our hearts. Let's turn to intellectual hunger. Lena was raised by a devout Catholic mother, who it turns out was only Catholic because her stepfather was. Her mother didn't know her biological father, not even his name. This would play an important role in her later years. She attended church every Saturday evening, where she also had her confirmation, First Communion, and wedding. Her children were baptized Catholic, and life was what it was supposed to be, or so she thought. From an early age, she questioned the beliefs of the church. Her mother always replied, "You don't question God," which made her question even more. She felt that she didn't have a relationship with God, only the church did. Their children were raised Catholic because that's what you do. This Southern Baptist Catholic couple joined a church and found the congregation to be comfortable. The priest was approachable, and Lena felt like she could ask him anything. It was then that she started verbally expressing her true concerns over what she was taught to believe. Lena's husband bought her a new Bible and wrote a lovely inscription that read in part, "I hope you find what you're looking for." This was a turning point for her, and she became fascinated with what she read and started to study. Then COVID hit, and she found she had time to spare. She found a Bible study group online and thought, why not take the opportunity to educate myself? She loved studying, downloading apps for Bible commentaries to dive a little deeper. And even though the world seemed to be crashing in all around her, she couldn't have been more content than the time she spent studying. The accessibility to knowledge opened up new doors, and she has since become active in her church, which adds greater quality to her days. Each time I speak with a person who has chosen to broaden their knowledge of their faith, I am thrilled at the enthusiasm of those who seek to satisfy their hunger for knowledge, using Bible as a backdrop. The devotion to study is intentional and powerful, and we understand that the acquisition of knowledge is a continuing quest that not only brings us closer to God, but also builds bridges between our faith communities. And in that vein, I invite you to visit my home congregation, Temple Beth Tikva. Yesterday, we hosted a group of students from Hope International University here in Fullerton. Students were invited to participate in the reading of our Torah scroll by following along in the Hebrew, even though most do not have knowledge of the language. And after the service, we had an enlightening conversation about what they had experienced during the service. Any Friday or Saturday night or Saturday morning, our doors are open for you to visit. Finally, let's turn to spiritual hunger. This was my favorite book growing up. The Golden Bible, copyright 1946. This was my favorite page in the entire book. Takes us back to the beginning of time. I was attracted to the text as much as I was to the illustrations. This one page that I would stare at repeatedly was page 9, showing the 7 days of creation, with the white-haired, bearded depiction of God at the center, and then taking his 7th-day nap down in the corner. That image of God remained with me throughout my childhood, because after all, that's what God looks like. Years passed, and I was sitting in my 8th grade Sunday school class. We were talking about theology and the many faces of God. All of a sudden, it hit me. The God that I had carried with me all these years wasn't necessarily what God looked like. But what was God, if not that? I was thrown into a tailspin, feeling lost and without an anchor. If I couldn't believe in that God, then I didn't have a God to believe in. Enter the college years, and I was living with my best friend. She was and continues to be affiliated with the Jewish humanistic movement, but she believed in God. I was affiliated with a more traditional focus on Judaism, but labeled myself as an atheist. Fast forward to September 1st, 1982, 5:09 a.m. With lights shining more brightly than the noon sun, a baby, my daughter, emerged into the outside world. My very first thought was, so that's what God looks like. And that was the return of my belief in a power higher than myself. My hunger for spirituality lasted years. I had studied Judaism and other religions through high school and had pursued my undergraduate degree in religion. And yet, what was missing through it all was the encounter with God. In my years of serving as an educator, as a synagogue administrator, as an engagement professional, and now as a rabbi, I find that the majority of us have a fear of stepping into the church or synagogue, and even more so, into an adult education classroom, because we're afraid we don't know enough. We want to feel spiritual, but we are reluctant to attach that spirituality to the roots that give life to that spirituality. And then we are surprised when we discover that the beliefs we have are actually attached to a faith community in their origins. While a belief system is the root religion, the equation for a full life takes that belief and turns it into meaningful action. That is what determines our fate after our days here on earth. Judaism devotes a special day each year, a day of atonement, or Yom Kippur, to the inventory of our soul. How do we deal with the hunger in our lives? Physical hunger leads us to nourish ourselves, to add the elements that allow the millions of pieces of this machine called our bodies to function efficiently. Beyond ourselves, did we feed the hungry in our midst, not passing judgment on the person at the entrance to the freeway? To the invitation to participate in the local appeal to fill the food bank or prepare holiday meals for the unhoused? Did we address our hunger for knowledge, giving our minds a regular mental workout, going beyond Facebook and Instagram to expand our knowledge of the universe? Research shows that our brain needs stimulation on a regular basis, and to gain information brings inspiration. And inspiration adds quality and quantity to our days. Remember being asked as a child at the dinner table, "What did you learn today?" Ask yourself that question, and even better, frame your day around the quest for knowledge. Lastly, think about how you can take the intensity of what we feel when we are sitting here in the sanctuary on Sundays into the rest of the week. The Jewish prayer services uses the Hebrew word keva for the practice of praying. It is the routine of going through the words at times that are predetermined. Kavanah, which comes from the word keva, on the other hand, means that one's prayers come from the heart, giving intention and meaning to the words. We call upon that kavanah on this day to fill our vial for a spiritual dab here and there wherever we go. But in truth, thinking that one dose can curb our hunger throughout the week is like attempting to visit an all-you-can-eat buffet and gorge to the point of feeling numb. It seldom sustains us beyond the immediate experience and often leaves us feeling empty after very little time. So it is with our religious experience. The church serves three purposes. We are a house of prayer. You are invited to enter the space of worship throughout the year, in person or virtually on Zoom. All are welcome. The congregation is also a house of learning. Whether studying formally or having a conversation with a congregant or a teacher, whether child or adult, not a day goes by without there being an opportunity to learn something new. This congregation is also a powerful place to gather. A few weeks ago, I came to visit so that today this outsider would not feel completely foreign. It wasn't more than a minute or so when I met up with an old friend, and I immediately felt at home. These people are your extended family, and I truly believe that they are here for you. I speak not just of the clergy. Each of us deserves to feel like we are welcome and included, and to be the one who welcomes and includes others. The smile of acknowledgement or a word of encouragement to enter the doors of this holy community is more than walking into a building. It is being welcomed into the heart of the congregation, which extends beyond four walls. If you are feeling the hunger that brought you here today, you are in the right place. As this weekend marks the birth and memory of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., let us remember his definition of how we can quench the hunger of our bodies, our intellects, and our spirituality in finding the holy within each of us through love. He said, "Love is the greatest force in the universe. It is the heartbeat of the moral cosmos. He who loves is a participant in the being of God." May this be God's will. Amen.